I'm Diana McIver, and I'm president owner of DMA Development Company, and have been in this business a long time. And I'm pleased to meet you all.
And I'm Janine Sisak. I'm Senior Vice President and General Counsel of DMA Development Company. Likewise, nice to meet you all, and we're really happy to be able to talk more about this development opportunity.
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity to interview. We're very excited about the potential of being the developer for the Ryan Drive site. DMA as a basically small boutique development firm. We've been in business. DMA itself has been in business for 44 years, initially providing consulting to nonprofits. And more recently, 26 years ago, I started a development company, and that's DMA Development. And we have 2,700 units in operation, and probably close to half of that is actually in the Austin area. So we're a small boutique firm. We do primarily mixed income, mixed use developments, and we're known for our partnership approach to development. As the owner of DMA Development, I will be involved very heavily at the front because I'm very design oriented, and I want to make sure that our commitments to the community are honored. But also, I will tell you up front, I have probably the best development staff in the state of Texas. Very proud of that. Leading the charge for us will be Janine Sisak, our General Counsel, Senior Vice President, who's with me here today. And Janine has actually been with DMA for 23 years now. She has taken on some of our most difficult developments. She's encountered a myriad of challenges you can't even imagine, and always found a successful way to overcome those for us. So I believe that we're equipped with an outstanding principal in charge to lead us through this. She'll be assisted by development staff and also our property management staff. Joellen Smith, who has been with us for 26 years, Executive Vice President, has recently taken over the helm of our property management company, and Joellen gets involved during construction and the transition to operations, and also during operations. And both Joellen and Janine have considerable backup, a lot of talent on this staff, and a very, very, very good support system for both of them. As far as demonstrated capacity, we consider the Ryan Drive site right up our alley. We have done 2 P3 type developments with the Austin Housing Finance Corporation. And one of those is Aldridge 51 over at Miller. The other is Nightingale at Good Ranch, which is down in South Austin. Aldridge 51 is probably a very good comparable to the Ryan Drive site because it's 240 units, part of that Miller development, and we've got ground floor retail as well. We also are the developer on the RBJ campus, which, as you probably know, I've been involved with it informally for 15 years. As a company, we've been involved with it for 10 years, and helping the Austin Geriatric Center reposition that 18-acre campus to senior housing and mixed use and retail. And so I think that shows our capacity to really take an undeveloped site and really turn it into a very good urban environment. And as you know, we're still working on that. We're rehabbing the tower as we speak. Another example of taking a small site and turning it into something successful is our work with Travis County. And there we did Travis Flats, where we've got 147 units of multifamily, mixed income, combined with the Travis County offices and shared parking. So Okay. And then last but not least, we've got Talavera Lofts, and Janine will be talking about that in a few minutes. But that is our transit-oriented district. What I want to do is turn over to Janine, since she's going to be leading the team. I'll let her talk about how we're going to ensure a successful team.
Right. I think our keys to success for this project, like our prior projects, is selecting the right people. And for DMA, that means working with people that we've worked with for 15 years in certain cases. Specifically, Nelson Partners is our go-to architect for all of our Austin mixed use, mixed income developments. And, those developments have been recognized for their excellent design. Diana mentioned also DMA has long tenured principals, and we know the staff, the key staff at AHFC. You know what it's like to work with us. Okay, thank you. So as you may or may not know, we were one of the finalists for this site when it was under the RFP stage. And so we're intimately familiar with the site and the challenges that come with it, but there's really nothing about the site that's a concern for us from a design standpoint. Again, we did the deep dive a couple of years ago in preparing our proposal in response to the RFP, and we completely understand, the main goals for the redevelopment, which is increasing access to the transit center with pedestrian and bike-friendly paths, including a large public park for the neighborhood, and then, of course, building high-density mixed-use housing with ground floor retail uses to activate that transit center. But, all of that kind of design stuff aside, we really feel like the biggest challenge here is the current market conditions, which are very different from 2021 when this was out for RFP. You all know construction costs and operating costs have gone up significantly. Interest rates have gone up significantly. And investor interest in the Austin market right now is a bit shaky because there's still a whole bunch of workforce product in the pipeline, or you could call it non-luxury multifamily in the pipeline. And so it's very difficult even for market rate developers to get anything done in this environment. So that's going to be the biggest challenge, is finding financing. Now, if we talk about financing without tax credits, which was referenced in the RFQ, the challenge to finance this becomes more difficult, and we can talk, later in the interview today about tax credits and what benefits that it bring. But again, it's challenging environment, and we would, love to talk with you all about the benefits of tax credits and why we think it's an appropriate financing tool given this environment. That being said, this a development of the scale could take, easily 18 months to get to permitting. We can certainly look at the market conditions at that time. We hope that the interest rate environment will be different at that time, but we also need rents and expenses to stabilize. So again, this is a long way of saying we think that, the market is the biggest challenge right now. We don't see any design challenges. But still, I think our first step, if we were selected to be your development partner on this, would just be to present several financing structures to you. Sit down in a meeting, look at a tax credit model, look at a non-tax credit model, see what it looks like in terms of gap financing needed from RHGA, talk about the likelihood of success with the tax credit program, whether we did a combination of 9% credits with 4% credits, looking at the, tax exempt bond program year and deciding what that looks like in terms of whether it's a year with the oversubscription or undersubscription. And so, these are all the challenges that we encounter day to day. These are challenges that we encountered when we developed Aldridge 51 and Wildflower Terrace, which was, if anybody remembers, I know Diana remembers, was in 2008, 2010, when equity pricing was in the low 70s, and we were still able to get that deal done. So, I think the key to this challenge is that we are a developer that will stick with the development and stick with AHFC as a partner until it gets done. We have the financial capacity to, invest in pre-development costs, get the development permit
1 minute.
ready, and, perhaps wait for market conditions to get to a place where it's more favorable. But the big takeaway here is we will stick with it. And I think you will see from our other developments like Travis Flats and Talavera Lofts, and as Diana alluded to, RBJ, where her involvement is going on 14 years. My involvement is 10 plus years. Talavera took us 3 years, 3 tax credit rounds to get financed. Travis Flats took us 2 rounds to get financed. But again, the message I want to send to you guys is we're going to stick with it and we're going to get it done.
And I think one advantage we have because we're small is that we're very nimble and we can get quick decisions done. And I think when you're up against a challenge, being able to pick up the phone and say, Diana, we need a decision in 5 minutes is a good thing.
Okay, so I'm going to take this one as well. We've reviewed in detail all the community input that y'all have gathered both several years ago and more recently, and we appreciate the note that the neighborhood feels a little engagement fatigue. I completely understand that, but because of the RFP process and because the RFP process resulted in, many development schemes that were available to the public and visible to the public, I really think it's important that we re-engage because now there's kind of a vision out there that they understand and saw and believed was feasible at that time, despite the fact that market conditions have changed. So we would really, we think it's very important to go back to the drawing board, while also being sensitive that the neighbors have jobs and families and other responsibilities. I think there's a way to engage them that's not onerous. Or kind of reinventing the wheel in a way. But I see the first step as, DMA and AHFC going back to the neighborhood, introducing the new team, introducing the community liaison, and some of the concepts that we presented in our RFQ response, which were setting up an advisory committee with representatives from the various stakeholder groups, and really just kind of starting that process again, meaning not from the beginning, but from, hey, last time we looked at this, things were a little different in terms of the market, and the RFP process was not executed. And so here we are in a different time, and I think we need to kind of reset expectations. Now, in saying that, DMA is very much committed to delivering the main principles of what the neighborhood wants. And we always saw those as increased connectivity for pedestrians and bikes to the rail station to enhance ridership, the large public park that's not hugely programmed, but has green space and a pavilion and a interactive children's garden. And then housing, dense housing with ground floor retail near a transit station, which we all know is where this type of development needs to be. So we're committed to delivering that to the neighborhood, but I think that we need to kind of reset expectations given the prior RFP process. In addition to that, community engagement isn't just important during development. I think the RFQ asked really great questions about how we would be respectful to the neighbors during construction. And I think we, adequately answered that in a way that I don't need to review now. But I would like to reiterate that we self-manage. DMA self-manages all of its projects. So we're involved from the very beginning to the very end. And we task our management staff with continuing engagement through operations. Ways to engage involve making our community spaces available to neighborhood groups to meet, for instance, or to host forums on different topics that are open to the public. We can, and we have in our Miller developments worked with local artists to bring local art or, local flavor to our communities, either in, art on the walls or a hand brought fence or, a piece of public art. So things like that are ways that we can engage the neighborhood. And then, hosting outside community events, an art exhibit, a maker's market, something like that involving local vendors. That would be a way that we could engage the community. And also it has the added benefit of activating the ground floor spaces and bringing people to the site and understanding that the park is for everyone. The Paseo to the rail station is for everyone. This is a development that's going to be designed and developed and executed to fit completely within the context of the existing neighborhood. And on that note, we will work with the adjacent landowners to make sure that everything works together in a way that makes sense. So the whole is greater than the parts. And then finally, in terms of working with local businesses, we're really good at, creating ground floor retail spaces and keeping them open until we find the right fit, right? We just don't want to take the first person interested in that retail space. We want to work with local businesses. We want to understand what the residents want in terms of local services. And we want to work with businesses, even at a reduced rent. Okay, so we have recent experience with developing in a transit-oriented district in Austin, and I don't think a lot of affordable housing developers can say that, so it's really exciting. We worked on the Talavera Lofts project in the Saltillo redevelopment. We were selected by Endeavor to be their affordable housing provider, and so we worked kind of downstream on that P3 project between Cap Metro and Endeavor, and we were, again, downstream from Endeavor to help them meet their affordability requirements. So the challenges there and the lessons learned there, which are obviously directly applicable to the Crestview site, is that, we executed that deal in compliance with several layers of affordability requirements, including those of the regulating plan, the Cap Metro Endeavor ground lease, the tax credit program, and the RHDA program. So lots of layers of affordability there, and we were able to achieve an average of 50% rents across the board, which was a huge win. That's what was in the regulating plan, and that's what we accomplished. From a design standpoint, we overcame several challenges. The first was that our site was 0.6 acres, and Endeavor wanted us to put as many units as we possibly could on that site. We achieved 93 units, and we parked at about 0.6 parking spaces per unit, which was the lowest parking ratio we've ever achieved, and this was before Affordability Unlocked. And so we needed to use kind of all the tools in the toolkit to reduce the parking because we knew that we wouldn't need it next to Plaza Saltillo. The success story there is we are perfectly parked, meaning we don't have, everyone who has a car that lives in Talavera can park there, but there aren't a handful of spots just remaining open unused. So we really kind of nailed it in that respect. The other challenge there was only one place to put a front door. We only had a sliver of frontage on Navasota, and so we had to have our front door there. That meant that our back was facing Plaza Saltillo, which was not ideal. So we worked with Nelson to kind of activate the back of the house, so to speak, with these vendor stalls that can open once Plaza Saltillo, has a market event. Makers or vendors could, have a shaded stall in Talavera and open up the doors and be a part of the Onion Paseo and any sort of spillover from Plaza Saltillo. The Onion Paseo isn't improved yet, but DMA has provided designs to Capital Metro to improve that Paseo because we really want to connect the two pieces better. There's a lot of potential to improve that area, and we're committed, and Capital Metro is committed to getting that done eventually. The third challenge was green space. DMA always puts green space in all of its deals, no matter how tight the site. And the solution at Talavera was to put the green space up on the mezzanine. It's a beautiful space with downtown views. It has large tables for communal gathering and festooned lights, which is, very in keeping with the vibe of the East Side. It's across the street from Scoot Inn. We put in high, noise barrier glass and did some things to really to treat the building so our residents could enjoy quiet, even though they're across the street from a big active music venue. And then the final challenge, which I want to mention, is that not only were we next to a foul zone, which is constructing a project next to an active rail line, which required a whole bunch of safety measures that we hadn't normally encountered before, but on the other side, we were expected to build the Lance Armstrong Bikeway. So those two things are directly applicable to, I think, some of the challenges at Crestview. Just philosophically, we're new urbanists. The Nelson team is new urbanists. We're really committed to pedestrian-friendly, transit-oriented developments, and our proposal for Ryan Drive a couple years ago, I think, was evidence of that commitment. Again, green space is really important to us, and despite, my doom and gloom about market conditions, we will, that's the one part of our prior proposal that I know we can still deliver. So we're committed to, embracing the high level of green space that the neighbors want at Ryan Drive. And then, finally, we believe in density, mixed use, mixed income on transit stations. So really excited to have another opportunity to work in a TOD.
And while we believe that housing is all about people, I think it doesn't hurt that Talavera Lofts was on the
Okay, as mentioned in our RFQ response, we see this as a true P3 joint venture between DMA and HFC, where an HFC would be the managing member of the ownership entity, and DMA would be the special member and lead developer. HFC would be the co-developer. And HFC will own the dirt and lease it back to the ownership entity. You all are all familiar with this structure. We've done it with you on Aldridge 51 and Nightingale at Goodnight Ranch, and we've done it with Travis County for Travis Flats and other deals that we have worked on over the years. We see this as proceeding under Chapter 394 of the Local Government Code, meaning under your HFC, unless for whatever reason you want to do it with your PFC. I just wanted to mention that our work is typically done under the equitable title model for HFCs, not under the PFC structure. The key to the structure obviously is the tax exemption. Not paying taxes means that you can increase your loan proceeds, which directly impacts gap funding. I mean, without that tax exempt financing or that property tax exemption, the gap is bigger. It's just kind of, real estate financing 101. And so that would be kind of the structure, the most important part of the structure. We also would use a condo regime. We use condo regimes all the time. The benefit of a condo regime here would be that we could have kind of a workforce condo for the 80 to 120% AMI units, and then a LIHTC condo for the 80, 60 and below units. And there are some benefits to that. You can achieve the affordability required under Chapter 394. The tax exemption benefits the whole project. But you're actually achieving a deeper affordability than that statute requires. So there's that benefit. There's also the benefit of kind of shielding the tax credit investor from the risk of the workforce housing units. And that's really what gives investors a lot of heartburn right now. It's not the affordable units, because we all know that there's a huge need for that. It's the, the 80 to 120 that really kind of makes tax credit investors nervous. So this condo structure kind of bifurcates the risk that way. And so there are a lot of advantages to doing that. Another way I could see this working is we could have, a 4% condo and a 9% condo. I believe that this site could score for a 9%, and that really helps reduce your gap needs that RHDA would potentially fill. But other than RHDA, we appreciate that y'all don't want us to come to you, for all of our funding needs. So, we would apply for TDHDA direct loan funds. We'd apply for federal home loan bank funds. We'd apply for any sort of funds we could get our hands on. Project Connect funds would probably be applicable here. So, we'll do everything we can. And DMA is very well versed on layerings financing. We do it all the time, probably more so than any other tax credit developer in terms of, our deals are typically big and fancy and expensive, and that, requires a lot of different layers of financing. On the design side, there's a lot we can do, and, we'll need to revisit that with you all and the neighborhood organizations, but, we can be more economical and efficient with design. There's lots of ways to do that. I don't think time allows me to go into details, but just know that we know what to do to bring these things in line with something that is financeable. We can look at, reducing parking. We can look at increased height. Thankfully for Affordability Unlocked, we have a lot of tools in our toolkit now to, kind of, again, get these things back into a place where they're financeable. We can also consider increasing the number of units from 300 if that's what we want to do without sacrificing the public park. And again, we should look at the 9% to see if we can get more leverage there out of that program rather than a 4% program, at least on part of the 300 units. So that is kind of a quick take on funding, although again, our first order of business would be presenting a couple of scenarios to you guys and sitting down and really having a workshop so we all understand with our eyes wide open at the beginning of the project what this is going to look like and what we need to do to get it done.